This is going to make a mess, but this thermostat is jammed. Come on. There we go. Got it. Oh. The increased angle, since it's on a ramp, seems to help reduce the amount of water buildup. You can see where junk came up here and caught in this upper well. And it's actually dry in here, so it didn't leak. So this gasket is good, but you can see where water pushed up on top. So it is building up there. So the odds are when it was hitting flat, it actually built up and got over this as it's not sealed good. So I'll go through and seal that, and I'll go through and clean this out. Even with it, just the stuff out of it, it's not near as bad. It needs wiped, scrubbed out good, but yeah, I think this will clean up good. It's dry. So, but when this thing would be sitting flat, if this thing was sitting flat, I bet there'd be water sitting in here still. Because even with this angle, you can see where the water kind of caught there. Because it's curved. It's a dam.
Especially with the amount of rain we got yesterday. Good Lord,
great. We got more coming this week, so we've got another round of it Tuesday. We've got flood warnings. So this is fun because I got to travel Tuesday. Always. Yes. So.
And as you can tell, we work in God's garage out here, so.
Yep. And the other end is I finally got the hoses and the thermostat and the O2 sensor, so I can finally finish working on this. And today I am going to try to get that thermostat changed, which is down there, which will be interesting. Yep, first step's going to be to get everything set up, and I bought a couple of cheap buckets to try to reuse this coolant because it's still brand new and it's not cheap. So we're going to do that. That's going to be the next step. And to change shoes. I'm wearing good shoes right now. I got to put old shoes on.
Recording.
All right, so like I said, I got a couple buckets. I'm going to try to stay fluid. I've loosened up the clips. I tested the new thermostat. I will show this in a video later. I've got to test the Buicks as well. We boiled up some water, and Kit actually, while I was out here working on getting the stuff ready here, dunked this in a glass of boiling water from an electric kettle, and let it sit in that hot water, and we watched and made sure it opened up. The spring should retract from the heat, and this valve should open up and allow water through. It's reacted just fine.
Is there a reason why I want to do that? That sounds like a lot of extra work.
Anymore, when you get parts, a lot of times the new parts don't work. It's not unusual for you to get a new thermostat and it not react. The metal they use for the spring does not retract like it's supposed to, so it either doesn't open or it doesn't open enough.
Yeah.
So it's worth trying, because it falls back into the problem with getting quality parts now. It's getting harder and harder, and you run into replacing new parts over and over and over again.
So, long story short, it's a quick test you can do that will save you literally 90 minutes of work for nothing.
Yeah, it takes maybe 10 minutes, and it tells you whether or not you're replacing it with a good part. It's also how you can test an old one and see if it really is the problem, and we may do that after. There's a stopcock, but there's a skid plate I'd have to remove to use it to drain. So I'm just using the lower line since I have to take it off anyways. And I am going to replace it as well as the upper with a proper one.
You don't like your spongy spring line?
Well, the spring line's already failed. It's swollen and it's not sealing. So.
Yeah, that thing looks like it's about to ready to rub against the.
Yeah, it's also really close.
Yeah.
And it explains why the original hose went from not rubbing to rubbing. It had swelled and it rubbed against right here. It swelled up and it started rubbing this pulley and it popped. And I was wondering why it got that way, and why it got that way because the thermostat wasn't opening. This one's actually one of the down facing ones, which is the hardest to adjust, to fix. So this is going to be fun. Push that in.
We have faith in you. We have faith in you and your ability to make a mess.
Yep. Down. All the nasty goop. And laying underneath it, I can see the outer edges of head gaskets, and they look new. Also looks like there's been some new work on the exhaust and stuff, so I'm pretty sure this has been out and had the head gaskets done. Doesn't mean that they were done right, but they were done. No. But see, straight down here, I've taken the radiator cap off, and this is already dripping. And I'm going to try to put it in that bucket because, like I said, I'm going to try to save this and reuse as much of it as I can. Hold this upper line off so I have more airflow. There we go. I just pulled that off. I already loosened it. The bad thing is when I open it, it'll probably dump all kinds out of the engine. The engine seems to hold a great majority of the coolant. The radiator's already drained. Now it's draining out of the coolant system. Aggravating thing with thermostat being on the bottom is at the lowest point of the coolant system.
Just reminds me of that old Adam Sandler skit, The World's Longest Pee.
Mm-hmm. But see how that line's already swelling? It's bulged out bad, and you can see where it was leaking around it. And see where it's been flowing out.
Yeah.
So this line isn't necessarily garbage, but I can't use it on this car anymore.
Well, what else could you use it for?
Anything, really, any vehicle. I just want something, so it's a flex line, so it flexes in whatever. This side's still good. The hose is just fine. Whatever I use it on, though, has to be able to go back to here. And it's going to need to be a bigger opening than what this was. Because that was crushed down, and it won't crush down like that anymore. And I'm probably going to switch to different clamps, because I'm not a big fan of those clamps. Made in Pakistan. There we go. Got a little bit more. Let's get this off and not drop it in the coolant bucket. I've finally got the what's supposed to be the right O2 sensor. This is the O2-1, and this is the one I cleaned before. And when I was supposed to have ordered a 2-pack, and the 2-pack came with just the number 2, which has to come out to get that. The number 1 is here, which is a whole lot easier when the CV joint was out, CV axle was out. Number 2 is here. And I am replacing number 1 because this is the one that has the error code. I found that, well, I got a socket for this, but it's not the right size. This one's actually 7/8 or 22 millimeter. It seems to fit either one. 7/8 seems to fit better, at least on the original. But they're close enough that they work. This one, luckily, I've already broke this one loose, so it came to fairly easy. This would be easier if it wasn't on ramps. But I'm working on other things at the same time.
There we go. We got a light on. Shed some light on that situation for y'all.
Push the little tab in, it releases and it pulls out. And of course, it wants to run away from you, so try not to let that go too much. There's the old one. You can see where I cleaned it. It's still all carboned up.
Funky, funky.
So I'll replace that with a new one. But the good thing is, there's still some carbon on it, but it's not all carbon all the way up. So even though it's burning a little oil, it's not too bad, and that's not telling me that it's just sooted up. It's just the sensor's bad.
After 17 years? 18 years?
Yeah, or it could have been replaced with a cheap one, but
yeah.
I think it's an original, and I don't know why someone did that. That I doubt's original. And they zip tied the line shorter. This is supposed to be the proper unit. It comes with, actually looks like a lot better quality sensor than that. And these are the little protective ends. It does. It comes preloaded with anti-seize, so I don't have to add any. See, it's got it already on there. So this is a that's new. This is TRQ brand. I'm not real sure. It had a good rating and it wasn't too horribly expensive. So
trusted, reliable quality.
Now the hard part's going to be getting down there where I can get this in there. This was a whole lot easier without the CV axle in.
So if you're changing your CV axle, just go ahead and do this at the
same time. Do this
at
the time.
Even if it's required, even if it's not required.
It doesn't hurt to do it. If you're having any kind of code issues or it's older, it's a convenient time to change it. Originally it would have had a clip back here. The clip's gone. So what I'm doing is I'm running it back here along where the other O2 sensor goes and pushing it back behind the wire so it can hold. And that gives us a point to hold it out of the way so it's not rubbing against the axle or touching the exhaust. My normal dielectric grease I'm going to put on this side to help make sure this is seals good so water don't get in there and cause new problems. And then I just plug it in. Plug it in, plug it in.
We started back with the commercial jingles. I mean, it is officially spring. I said we'd start back in the spring.
There we go. And I got to tighten it up a little bit more, but that's all together. And then snug tightness, probably be something in one of these corners giving the torque rating, which is hard to do because you get torque rates on this one. Like I said, the tool I got for O2 sensor didn't fit this. So
we're using good and tight.
You want to make, once again, it's the same kind of spark plugs. You want to make a good seal. And that washer will make the seal.
Yeah, I'll do what I can to find the torque rating and throw it up. Probably in this corner right up here. Sorry for the giant finger. Right up there.
Follow the giant finger.
You know, if Dorothy had to follow the giant finger as opposed to the yellow brick road, that'd be a lot weirder of a movie.
Didn't they make a version like that?
Not one that we can discuss on a family channel, I don't think.
And when you have the wheel and the axle and all that out, you can do it from this side, from the wheel well. And it was a little easier. And if this actually was where it was supposed to be, you would have to remove this to do this, at least this part. Which I still haven't found a replacement air box.
We've been looking. I'm about to just get a dryer hose and make one.
I've got dryer hose. I might end up doing that. That's good and tight. I can't get a good angle on it, get any tighter, so.
Don't think it's going to rattle out.
Get.
Okay.
But hopefully that'll reset and clear the codes. So this should hopefully take care of this misfire. I've replaced the plug, I replaced the spark plug and changed that O2 sensor. So hopefully it'll get the fuel feed right and get that cylinder feeding right. If not, then I don't know. I'm running out of things to change. But it should take care of the O2 sensor. I actually had the same warning, same error codes come up on the Kia, the Sportage. And when I replaced the O2 sensor, solved the misfire. So,
y'all know it as Tort, the racing turtle.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Tort started throwing the same codes for misfire, O2 sensor, fuel feed mix, fuel bank, I think bank 1 fuel mix being off, and replaced that, and it's happy now. It's running good. Only problem it has still is a vacuum leak to the transmission I've got to find.
I just have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Were you just a little teapot?
Short and stout. All right. And now I'll go back to working on the cooling system. All right, I'm going to go ahead. It's mostly drained down now. I'm going to go ahead and replace this upper hose while I'm at it because I can go ahead and do it and get it out of the way. I'll show you this is a form fit. It's supposed to be form fit for this. That one on. I put a new hose clamp here because the one that was over here fell apart on me while I was repairing it on the road. So I don't know if it would work or not real well. It may have been part of the problem with it leaking. There we go. That's on. These are the stock ones were 10 millimeter. The new ones are 8 millimeter. These hose clamps. Which it's on a little extra far because it needs to be able to clear this fan. In all truthfulness, I think the one that was on here originally was over that too. That little lump. So, but that's clear the fan, you clear the belt, you clear the fan. It's all where it should be. So, and this one I'm not going to tighten yet because I may need to pull that to help burp it. But this side I want to go on and get done. Getting tight. I always do it till it bites into the hose just a little bit. So at least on metal, when it's rubber on metal like that. So that's in there. That's good and tight.
And of course the clamp isn't near anything to rub.
Nope. And it's where you can get to it to take it off. So I'll push this back so it's not sitting on the hose directly. Hold up. Back over just a little bit. Yeah. And it's up and off the hose now and still back a little bit so it's not rubbing. So, not rubbing, and hopefully I won't catch myself on it. Alright. Now we have the fun of removing the thermostat housing down here on the bottom, which is all from underneath. They're not 8 millimeter. I bet you they're not 10 either. They're probably 9 millimeter. No, they're 10. They are 10 millimeter. And these ones that face this way are notorious for being hard to get the air out of.
Now, thermostat housing, where is that? Is that direct? What is that directly under?
It is basically on the opposite side of the engine from the oil filter. Right. On the opposite side of the oil pan from it. Front of the engine.
If y'all are looking
right by the dipstick for the oil.
Yeah, if y'all are looking here, it's directly, there's the dipstick, there's the pulley there. So
turn that just a little bit. I think I knocked the camera. Alright. Let's see what we got. Try to finish it off by hand with this bucket. Work around the bucket. Hope the bucket's not blocking the shot. Alright, I gotta figure out this. Okay, bucket goes there. And can go. Logistics here.
Yes. It looks like you're just trying to record me recording you. From this angle.
That's funny. Okay. I'm hoping someone didn't cross thread this, because this screw is being stubborn. Because when it holds like that, it's not getting any closer to the end. So I'm twisting the shaft inside of it now.
Yeah.
And it won't snap. I wish it would snap.
It'd be nice if it'd snap.
I think it's moving now. Do not put your face directly under it. That's part of the problem. I look, then I run away. Okay, and it's the plastic thermostat housing. It looks all right. Oh wow, this thermostat looks bad. Oh, come on. It won't come out. Hand me that broken screwdriver. This is going to make a mess, but this thermostat is jammed. Come on. There we go. Got it. Oh. Okay. This is nasty. It's got all the oil and junk on it. And Yeah, it does match what's in there. But, yeah, I think the thermostat was in there when the head gasket blew because it has all kinds of gunk on the outside. The inside is clean from the filter, but the fact that the inside is clean and the outside is still grody kind of tells me it's probably not opening. Because the inside is nice and clean. Outside is yuck. And of course I didn't bring the thermostat down with me because that would be convenient.
I could have handed it to you.
I needed a towel anyway. They didn't bring that either.
Yeah, I would say this is dead. I can't push that in any direction.
Well, no, that one, the new one's really stiff too, but the fact that you have no scouring really around, see that's the face for it. That's the area where the fluid interfaces, and there's still junk on it. And that engine has been worked on, so it's just, I think the thermostat's probably going to be the whole problem. It also falls in line with the upper line swelling and failing. I did not know that was an issue. That was a trait of Subaru thermostat failing. That the upper line swells and fails. And the cap blows because you build up too much pressure. It gets hot, pressure builds up, and it can't circulate. So you end up with back pressure into the radiator. It may be what happened to the original radiator, and because it had head gasket problems, they didn't bother. They replaced that and didn't bother with thermostat. This thing has the look that it was, I think they pulled it, started fixing it, and then just slapped it back together. They put the head gaskets on and we're done. Head gaskets and new radiator.
Yeah, which it seems to me that if you have to replace the head gaskets on it, you might as well put a new thermostat in it at the same time. That would make sense to me. Again, I'm not a mechanic. I'm just the guy who holds the camera, but still.
Yeah, and it would be nice if they replaced these oil gaskets too. It seeps. It's not seeping so bad it's leaking oil out, but it seeps oil. There's all kinds of spots where it seeps oil. It's not dripping, but it's seeping. I'm going to try running some Lucas and another gasket rejuvenator in it and see if that helps with the oil consumption. Because it's not horrible, but it's bad enough that it bothers me. It's not a 2-cycle yet. Put that somewhere where stuff's not blowing in it, please. And I'll use something to strain it, make sure there's nothing in there. I'll put something over. Let's see. So there's that, and that. I gotta finish changing that line and put this thermostat in. New thermostat. It goes down. If this was one that went this way, you had to make sure this bubbler is on top. This helps get air out of the system. On the ones down, it actually should still sit that way, I think. Because I think it came out that way. So I'm hoping that's right, because that's how it was sitting in there. So, and that's the gasket for it. And that's supposed to seal it all the way. Now, bucket, which it didn't actually drop hardly any water. So, oh, towel. Where's my towel? I have a towel to clean this. I want to clean these. I'm cleaning the interface where this gasket's going to sit in. Try to make sure it has a good chance for a seal. Okay. You got to push this gasket in. Make sure it seats. It doesn't come off of the thermostat. There we go. I gotta hope this thing was in here the right way, because I'm putting it back the way I pulled it out. It's less of an issue with this one though, because the bubbler, there's no up, but you just want the bubbler up. This is another one of those wonderful things. There's torque specs to this. Probably show up in a bubble somewhere if we can find them.
We'll do our best.
You want to go back and forth on tightening them. It helps work it up. In all truthfulness, the down-facing ones are I think easier to change, but they're supposed to be really hard to burp, so really hard to get the air out of the system. But that one, like I said, that was more. That thing hadn't been moving. And this is what I just kind of go off of what I'm standard to, which I can't remember what the pound is. I just remember how I'm holding this here was about right. So that should be good and tight without breaking the casing or stripping the screws. And then once again, just go back and forth a couple times, make sure they're both sitting there. There we go. And that's on. Now it's just a matter of changing this hose, which I couldn't reach. That's from up there, which I need 8mm. Can you hand me the one with 8mm? It's on the other side of this board. And I'm replacing this line while I'm down here because the fact the upper one failed is a good sign that the lower one will fail. And it does have swelling in it, so it probably would have failed. Do not put your face directly under it. Ah. Did not get in my eyes, but got on my face. And I can't open my eyes now because it's hit me in the forehead and rolled down. And I've got a bottle of water sitting over there on the Cherokee.
Lid's off.
All right, just pour it on my eyes. Thank you. Hand me another towel.
So safety glasses would have been good?
You'd have to have goggles. It's what I was trying not to do, is don't have your face anywhere where stuff will flow into it. Luckily, I had it where it didn't flow into my eyes, but it hit me in the forehead and rolled down. I never closed my eyes quick enough, but yeah. Goggles would have been recommended, and mainly just don't have your face anywhere where it's going to run.
Subi marked you, now you're hers.
All right. Well, technical difficulties as always. The new hose, as you can see, has a long curve instead of the gradual curve of the one that was on there. It's also longer, so I'm going to have to trim it. It will fit in there. It's the right size. It does match up, other than it's about 1.5 inches too long, 2 inches too long. So I'll have to cut it. I'm going to use where this one is to kind of start it. Yes, this is an old steak knife. I've got a razor knife too. I used to have a pair of scissors for this, but I cannot find them. Straight line's optional. I'm going to try to do this from up here.
Okay, I thought you was going to climb underneath again.
Not unless I absolutely have to.
Don't like it down there, huh?
No. I'm going to have to tighten this clamp up, but I think I can run the line up here. No, I have no hose clamps on it. So it'll probably fit, because I'll have to take it off. Yep, it fits. Because I'll have to take it off again. This was the one originally up against the radiator, and that's why, and you can see where at some point there was a leak. I put it down on this other side so it could be gotten to easier. Be cleaned up. And of course I've got to burp this system, which is going to be all kinds of fun. But I may actually do the shifter linkage before I do that, because I really need to get this thing out of the way so I can do the fuel pump in the truck, so I can start using the truck again. At which point I start pulling wheel bearings on the Kia. Good and tight. a check of tightness when you start running it and get pressure. If it starts leaking, then you know it's not tight enough.
Or are you trying to burp the system in a weird way? I am
going to burp the system. That's why this one's still loose.
I was kidding about that. That's not how you burp a system. I was kidding.
There we go. That should be good and tight now, because it's bit into the hose. That's all I want. Or tight enough that it bites into the hose a little bit. I'm happy with it. Okay. And there's some interesting zip tie repairs here and there. Clips are still there. They just don't hold tight anymore.
Could you show off those zip tie repairs, if you don't mind?
Look, right there. See there, the clip holds this panel up. Well, they've zip tied it because that clip's not very tight anymore. Still holding, just not tight. So that probably bounced around. It should be like this over here. Which that one's a little loose, but not too bad. So, there you go.
It's always great when you get zip tie repairs on your new car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Way over full. Do this out in the bucket. Yep, getting ready to put together. I'm adjusting the level and the overflow because it's way over full right now. There we go. Still a little over full, but not as full as it was. This back in, it has a little point down there that goes in. You just slide it in that way, and it clicks into place, and that's it. And put this line back on and tighten it down. Which I knew I brought the screwdriver over. I just didn't know where I put it. This time I remember to put it up, so it's easier to get to. Tight, pushing that down so it can be caught. There we go. And then use fluid, which I'm going to actually make a couple towels. I'm going to skim a little bit off the top of that from that overflow reservoir to get the oil that was sitting on it off. There we go. And I need a funnel. There's no way it's going to pour in there. I need a funnel. Start to pour. This spring, I got a little flower petal that dropped in there. I got it, I think. Nope, still there.
That won't be good for the cooling system.
No. I regret pouring the stuff out of the reservoir in there. It was nice, clean green, and now it's got some of the black from that reservoir in it.
Yeah, it'll burn off.
It's a little bit of oil. It'll help lubricate everything. And that last little bit I'm going to leave in there because there's a little bit of junk in the bottom. Probably from the rest of the flush of the system, stuff that fell out. So that little bit of fluid is going to be waste fluid. Actually, but if you look, there's a little bit, you see some shinies in there. And there's a little bit of junk. You can see when you get sunlight, it actually shining. There we go. You see a little bit of junk sitting in the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not putting that back in my system. So if you do reuse it, you want to not stir it up. Make sure nothing's floating on it, and expect to leave a little bit in the bottom, because you're going to get some junk that was in the lines and sitting on the thermostat or above thermostat or whatever.
Yeah, just make sure that whatever mechanic in the bottle or whatever junk that they used, you're not going to put back in your system, huh?
Yeah. Like I said, if I hadn't already flushed this system twice, I wouldn't be reusing the fluid. But this system's been flushed twice, so. And this is 50-50. And what's in there is still better than 50-50, because what was in the tank, the overflow part of this was almost pure, so. I've got way too high a concentration of coolant now. Most likely. Someone's riding their weed eater.
Yeah, they're riding their weed eater hard.
Okay, I see drips. And you can see this one, this is not one of the normal, you have your leak stop funnels. This is one though, because it fits in this perfectly. But I see something dripping down there, so I gotta see what's dripping. So I get to go underneath again. Oh, I forgot to tighten this up. That may be what's dripping.
More than likely, you said you were leaving that loose on purpose.
I was, but then I started filling it up and... Oh, great.
Oh, great? What is oh, great?
Is it the thermostat? Thermostat housing's leaking. Hand me a towel and the wrench with the 10mm socket.
In here.
Thank you.
You are welcome, sir.
Alright, well, it wouldn't reseal, so it was leaking, and I was trying to tighten it down to see if I wasn't at the right torque so it would seal, and sheared off one of the two bolts. So off it goes, and I can tell you this, even though it doesn't have a gasket, I think next time I'm putting next instant gasket on it. So high temp instant gasket. But yep, so I'm done. It's draining. I'm absolutely soaked in coolant. And yeah.
Oh, it could be worse. Learned a couple things. Number one is Instagasket is recommended.
Well, it's one of those things, not supposed to have it.
No.
It's supposed to seal with that inner gasket. Well, it didn't seal. I can see why people hate these down-facing ones. So, yeah.
And use new screws when you put that housing back on.
This is, once again, I'm running into that problem a lot with these. These screws that were used with Subaru are,
Not impressed.
No. They're flimsy, like all the ones that was used in the Kia. Kind of running into the same problems. The bad part was it was burping and it was behaving and fluid was doing good, and then I couldn't get the housing to seal.
Yeah. How did you notice that anyways? Was it dripping?
It was dripping. It was dripping and seeping all the way around it. And I was just tightening a little bit, just a little bit, trying to get it to stop. And little bit ended up shearing that one off.
Yeah.
So I'm going to replace them both. That one I'm going to have to drill and tap, which is going to be all kinds of fun. That's going to be no video. Well, almost had this. Oh, the good news is it doesn't have really much sign of there being head gasket problems. The bad news is it's just ongoing. It's still not fixed. It's still in the way. So, until next time.
Y'all have a good one.
Have a good one.